Ronaldinho, 2003. Manchester United thought they had Ronaldinho locked in. Fee agreed, shirt picked out. Sir Alex even had him lined up as Beckham's replacement. All they had to do was finish the paperwork. But while United hesitated over the final terms, Barcelona slammed the door shut. Ronaldinho had just lit up the 2002 World Cup and was playing for PSG. United were confident. But Barcelona came in with a slightly better offer, called him directly, and convinced him the Camp Nou spotlight was brighter. He changed his mind, fast. Days later, he was wearing Blaugrana and twisting defenders inside out. And what did United get? They scrambled and bought a skinny 18-year-old from Sporting named Cristiano Ronaldo. That worked out. But still, Ronaldinho wasn't just a star, he was the show. Within 2 years, he'd win the Ballon d'Or, a Champions League, and turn Barcelona into a global entertainment machine. United missed a once-in-a-generation magician, the type of player fans come to see, even if their team's losing, the kind that makes defenders slip without touching the ball, and the deal was right there. All they had to do was move faster. Instead, they watched him dance in Spain and haunt defenders in HD for the next decade. Thierry Henry, 1999. Interestingly, he once trained at Manchester United. It's not folklore, it's fact. Back in the mid-90s, Henry was still a raw teenager at AS Monaco, and United invited him in for a trial. Sir Alex Ferguson watched him up close, then let him go. No bid, no contract, just a thanks for coming. Fast forward a few years, and Arsenal scooped him up from Juventus for £11 million. What followed was pure Premier League carnage. 228 goals, 2 league titles, undefeated season, and a permanent residence inside United's nightmares. The guy didn't just score, he glided, he ghosted, he humiliated. He became the exact kind of striker United ended up chasing for years. The pace, the flair, the clinical finishing. And every time he ran riot at Old Trafford, you had to wonder, how did they miss this? The scouting was there. The meeting happened. They just didn't believe enough. Years later, Ferguson admitted it, said he regretted letting Henry slip. Not many managers are that honest about a miss, but Henry made sure no one forgot. Every curl into the top corner, every back heel, every sprint past defenders was a highlight reel United could have owned. Instead, he signed with the enemy and became a legend. In Arsenal red, Erling Haaland, 2019. This one should have been the easiest goal United ever scored, but somehow they let the ball roll out of bounds. In late 2019, Erling Haaland was smashing records at Red Bull Salzburg, scoring goals like he was in a video game. United had the inside track. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had coached him at Molde. The club knew his camp, and his release clause was peanuts, just £17 million. So what happened? Haaland's agent, Mino Raiola, wanted a sell-on clause and some control over Haaland's next move. United's board said no flexibility, no deal. Instead, Borussia Dortmund agreed instantly, and Haaland went from teenage phenom to one of the most unstoppable forces in football. He scored 86 goals in 89 games for Dortmund. Then came Manchester City. His first Premier League season, 36 league goals, Golden Boot, a treble, and a new dynasty. The striker that could have led United into a new era ended up tearing them apart instead. Meanwhile, United tried band-aids. Cavani, Igalo, Weghorst. It felt like a panic aisle shopping spree. The contrast couldn't be clearer. One club hesitated over future planning. The other signed the future. And now, Haaland's name is written all over England's record books, just not in red. Zinedine Zidane, 1996. Before he was a World Cup winner, a Galactico, and a bald icon headbutting his way into history, Zidane was almost a Manchester United player. Back in 1996, Zidane was bossing midfield at Bordeaux, and United scouts flagged him early. The feedback was glowing. He had vision, balance, and control far beyond his age. But inside the club, there was hesitation. The concern? That Zidane's style might clash with Eric Cantona, United's kingpin at the time. 2 French playmakers in one midfield? That felt risky to the decision-makers. So they waited. Juventus didn't. They paid the fee and took him to Italy, where he became a European sensation. In 1998, Zidane lifted the World Cup for France. By 2001, Real Madrid made him the world's most expensive player at the time. He scored one of the most iconic Champions League goals ever, on his weak foot, and later returned to the club to win 3 more titles as a manager. United missed out on a player who redefined elegance. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because they didn't think he could fit. By the time they realised what they passed up, Zidane had already conquered world football. All because of a theory and a delay. Now, before we get into the next one, how about you like the video and hit that subscribe button to help us out? Now moving on, Kaká, 2003. In 2003, Manchester United had a golden chance to grab Brazil's next great number 10. Sao Paulo offered them Kaká, just 21 years old, already a full international and available for around 6 million. The scouting reports were strong, but the club didn't push. They'd just signed Kleberson after Brazil's World Cup win and figured that was enough. Meanwhile, AC Milan saw what United didn't: a generational midfielder with elegance, goals, and a future Ballon d'Or in his boots. Within months, Kaká was lighting up Serie A. He didn't need a warm-up period. He took over. In 2007, he dismantled Manchester United in the Champions League semis, scored twice, and made defenders collide like bumper cars. Milan lifted the trophy. Kaká lifted the Ballon d'Or, and United were left wondering how they let that slip. It wasn't about price. It wasn't about wages. The offer was real. The hesitation came from inside the club. Wrong call, wrong player kept, right talent ignored. Sir Alex later said Kaká was one of the few players he wished he'd signed. When a manager with 2 Champions Leagues says that, it hits different. Kaká was offered. United blinked. Milan acted, and the gap between regret and greatness widened fast. Gareth Bale, 2007 and 2013. Manchester United had 2 shots at Gareth Bale. They missed both. Back in 2007, Bale was still a teenager at Southampton. United scouts tracked him early, but dragged their feet. Tottenham didn't. They paid the fee, gave him minutes, and watched him morph from raw fullback into a jet-fueled winger. Then came the goals, the screamers, the solo runs that made defenders question their careers. By 2013, United came back. This time, they were serious. David Moyes made Bale the top target after taking over from Sir Alex. The club reportedly offered more money than Real Madrid, and even a last-ditch bid once the medical was underway. Bale ignored it. He wanted Madrid. That was the dream. He scored in 2 Champions League finals, including that overhead kick against Liverpool. Won 5 European titles, became a Welsh icon and a Galactico. United, meanwhile, shifted to Plan B, Marouane Fellaini. From Bale to Fellaini in one summer. That's not a Plan B, that's a breakdown. Bale was within reach twice. Once when he was cheap and rising, once when he was peaking and ready. United had the budget both times. What they didn't have was timing. Didier Drogba, 2002, before the Chelsea legacy, before the clutch finals, before becoming Manchester United's ultimate tormentor. Didier Drogba was right there for the taking. In 2002, he was at Guingamp, scoring goals and bullying defenders in League One. United scouts spotted him early. The reports came back glowing, physical, intelligent, built for English football. Still no bid. The club's attention shifted elsewhere. They had Ruud van Nistelrooy, and were focused on midfield upgrades. Chelsea didn't hesitate. 2 years later, Jose Mourinho made Drogba his flagship signing, £24 million from Marseille, and gave him the keys to Stamford Bridge. What followed was years of chaos for Premier League defenders and one long nightmare for United. Drogba scored 15 goals in 27 appearances against them, including multiple cup winners. He didn't just hurt United, he decided trophies against them. FA Cups, League Cups. That 2007 FA Cup final, Drogba in extra time, game over. United had seen the potential years before. They didn't act. And the player they could have signed went on to directly cost them silverware, over and over again. Sometimes the worst misses aren't the ones that got away. They're the ones that come back, boots on, and slam the door in your face. Vinícius Júnior, 2017. At just 16 years old, Vinícius Júnior was already turning heads in Brazil. Explosive dribbler, fearless with the ball, and clearly something rare. Manchester United had him on their radar. The scouting network flagged him early, and the club tracked his games at Flamengo. But while United was still evaluating, Real Madrid dropped €45 million and sealed the deal in one move. No trials, no drawn-out talks, just money wired, deal closed. Vinícius signed before he even played 50 senior minutes. Critics called it a gamble. Madrid called it vision. Today, it looks like one of the smartest transfers of the decade. Vinícius broke into the Madrid starting 11, sharpened his finishing, and became a Champions League killer. He scored the winning goal in the 2022 UCL final, ripped defences apart in Spain, and turned into the face of a new Galactico era, all before turning 23. United were left chasing wingers who never quite clicked. Depay, Alexis, Sancho. While Vinícius became a Ballon d'Or candidate, United were spending more on recovery plans than progress. There wasn't a negotiation breakdown. There wasn't a wage issue. Madrid just acted first and never looked back. The Brazilian jewel of the generation? He could have lit up Old Trafford, but they watched it happen from afar. Robert Lewandowski, 2012. Sir Alex Ferguson didn't miss many, but this one still stings. In 2012, Lewandowski was lighting it up at Borussia Dortmund. He had just dropped 30-plus goals across all competitions and helped Dortmund dominate the Bundesliga. United needed a long-term striker, and Ferguson made the call himself. He wanted Lewandowski. The club opened discussions. A move to Old Trafford was on the table. Then Bayern Munich made theirs. They convinced him to stay in Germany with a plan, run down his contract, then join for free. It worked. Lewandowski stayed at Dortmund one more season and scored 4 goals in a Champions League semi against Real Madrid. After that, he signed with Bayern and turned into a goal-scoring machine. Over 300 goals, multiple league titles, a sextuple, and a Champions League win in 2020. He even hit 41 league goals in one season, breaking Gerd Müller's ancient record. Meanwhile, United rotated through Falcao, Lukaku and Martial. Good players, but none on Lewandowski's level. They had the chance, the budget, and direct interest from Ferguson. The only thing missing? Pulling the trigger at the right time. By the time United looked again, he was wearing red. But it was Bayern's, not theirs. Neymar, 2013. In 2013, Manchester United made a bold attempt to hijack world football's hottest rising star. Neymar was on the brink of leaving Santos, and the entire planet knew he was destined for Europe. United stepped in late. Reports confirmed they submitted a massive bid, rumoured to be even higher than Barcelona's. But it didn't matter. By then, Neymar's camp had already locked in the Barca path. Months of secret meetings, player promises, and marketing deals were already signed. Barcelona didn't just offer a contract, they offered a system, a squad with Messi and global branding power. Neymar said yes. The paperwork? Done behind the scenes. When the transfer finalised, it came with a cloud of controversy, hidden payments, legal investigations, and a court case about the real transfer fee. But for Barcelona, it paid off. Neymar won a Champions League, scored in the final, and helped create the iconic MSN trio, Messi, Suarez, Neymar, one of the most lethal attacks ever. Meanwhile, United were rebuilding post-Ferguson. The club threw big money at big names, but nothing stuck the way Neymar did at the Nou Camp. It's rare for United to be outbid and outmanoeuvred. In Neymar's case, they were both. And once he landed in Spain, it became clear this was never just about money. Petr Čech, 2003. Before Chelsea made him a legend, Čech could have been wearing gloves at Old Trafford. In 2003, he was just 21 and making waves at Rennes. United scouts flagged him as a top-tier prospect, especially with Fabian Barthez on his way out. But when it came time to act, United stalled. There were concerns about his work permit, doubts about adapting to the English game, and hesitation from the board. They passed. Chelsea didn't. In 2004, Jose Mourinho signed Čech for £7 million, and it changed the Premier League's goalkeeping hierarchy for the next decade. Čech kept a record 24 clean sheets in his first season, won the league, and built one of the most dominant defensive records the league had ever seen. Against United, he was a wall. Key saves in title-deciding matches, penalty stops, cup final moments. The kind of keeper who doesn't just block shots, he kills momentum. 4 Premier League titles, a Champions League, and over 200 clean sheets later, his name is etched in the top tier of Premier League history. United had the chance to build that legacy themselves. Instead, they cycled through Carroll, Howard and Foster before finally finding Van der Sar. Čech was ready. They blinked, and the next dynasty signed him instead. Yaya Touré, 2006. This one didn't slip through the cracks. It walked straight through the front door. In 2006, he trained with Manchester United during a trial while playing for Belgian side Beveren. He even featured in a pre-season friendly against Oxford United, playing in midfield under the club's watchful eyes. But there was a problem. He needed a work permit to join full-time, and United weren't willing to wait. Instead of locking in a deal, they stalled. Arsène Wenger reportedly showed interest too, but same thing. No one made a move. Meanwhile, Touré kept climbing. Olympiacos, Monaco. Then Barcelona, where he won 2 La Liga titles and a Champions League as a holding midfielder with vision and power. In 2010, Manchester City brought him across town and rewrote the script. Touré didn't just shine, he dominated. Long-range screamers, slaloming runs through defenders, clutch goals in cup finals. He became the engine of City's rise to power, winning 3 Premier League titles and making the PFA Team of the Year 3 times. United had the chance to build their next midfield powerhouse before City even had oil money. Instead, they passed on a trialist who went on to dismantle them across Manchester derbies. Yaya was literally in the building. They let him leave. Toni Kroos, 2014. This wasn't a rumour. This wasn't a maybe. Toni Kroos verbally agreed to join Manchester United in 2014. The club had met with his agent, the salary was sorted, and David Moyes had already spoken to him. Everything was greenlit until Moyes got sacked. Once Moyes was out, the deal fell apart. United's new leadership shifted focus. Kroos never heard back. No follow-up, no contract, just silence. Real Madrid didn't waste time. They moved fast, paid €25 million and sealed the transfer from Bayern Munich. Kroos arrived just in time to help build one of the most dominant Champions League runs ever. He became the heartbeat of a midfield trio with Modric and Casemiro. 4 Champions League titles, over 450 appearances. A passing machine who controlled tempo like a metronome and barely made mistakes. At United, midfield was chaos. Post-Scholes experiments with Fellaini, Herrera, Schneiderlin. None of them came close to what Kroos brought in Madrid. Calm, class and control. Kroos later confirmed it himself. He was ready to sign for United. All the club had to do was follow through. They didn't. The player who could have been United's midfield solution for a decade ended up redefining Real Madrid's European legacy instead. So here's the question. If Manchester United actually signed all these players, would they have built the greatest team football has ever seen? Or would the chaos behind the scenes still find a way to ruin it all?